So I was just scrolling through YouTube and came across one of the most phenomenal videos I've seen this year. That this particular creator went from nothing to over 300,000 subscribers just off this one video. And at first it seemed too good to be true. Like, did he find outside help? Was he buying subscribers? What was going on here?
What the dog doing?
But when I really dived into this, I noticed all of the things he was doing followed some very concrete principles and tactics that I think can be applied to pretty much any video on YouTube if you get creative enough. And so what I'm going to do is go through this video and break those things down, because I think if you can apply this to your own content, you might not be able to apply it to the extent of this creator. Like, let's be honest, most of us aren't able to get 300,000 views off of one video, but you might be able to get, 10 times more views than you're currently getting, which would be a win. Let me go into this. The video is called Surviving 100 Hours Controlled by AI, and it's created by a guy named Mack. And as you can see, it's his first video, technically his second video, but his first video was literally just like an iPhone video of him telling the internet, hey, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And that video pretty much only got its success because of this current video he just posted. For all intensive purposes, this channel has basically only got one actual content video. So let's break it down by starting right at the very top. Essentially, in this video, Mack constantly asks ChatGPT what he should be doing at each phase in his day. When he should wake up in the morning, he asks it what he should eat for breakfast. He asks it what activities he should partake in throughout his day. He asks it how to respond to his messages. And then he actually acts on the instructions or recommendations ChatGPT gives him. And this video follows his journey. Before we even actually dive into the video itself, we need to look at the concept of the video idea. And the video idea here is pretty genius, as you can probably tell, but it's actually genius on a number of different levels here. Obviously, the survival challenge type videos are very popular formats just on YouTube in general. We've seen them work very well in pretty much any niche, assuming they're done right. And then Max combined this with another equally popular and trending topic, which is AI. The video is also pretty extreme. So spending 100 hours doing anything in and of itself is relatively extreme. But also, if you look at a lot of the other challenge videos around there on YouTube, a lot of them are for 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, but Max stepped that up a notch and gone for 100 hours. And lastly, to add to this genius idea stack, the video kind of subtly answers a burning question a lot of people have around AI. And that question is, will AI end up taking over and controlling humanity? And this video sort of answers the question of, if that happened, what would our lives actually look like? And when you nest all of these things together, it creates an inconceivably good video. But how can this be helpful for you? Because not all of us are creating videos like Max here, but most of us can still apply the principles he uses in his videos to make our videos a whole lot better. So essentially, the formula he's kind of following here is, firstly, find a highly popular video format. In this case, it's a survival challenge. A more bland, generic example could be like a tips and tricks video. We're talking find a housing or a structure that is proven to work across multiple niches. Once you've got that, combine that with the biggest or one of the biggest trends in your niche for a more semi-viral video that's probably not going to grow beyond your niche. Or in Mack's case, try and find a global trend that pretty much everyone is talking about or concerned about, such as AI, and mesh that with the successful format. And once you've got that, make it extreme, make it push the bar. In other words, research these types of videos and try to be more extreme, be the fastest, the most, the best, the least. In Mack's case, it's I survived 100 hours instead of the typical 24 or 72. If you were to do, say, a tips and tricks video like I talked about earlier, instead of doing the top 10 tips and tricks, do the top 100 tips and tricks. Whatever it is, find the bar, the status quo, and then go a little bit beyond that. And then add the last ingredient into this concoction, and that is try to have your video ultimately answer a question that is burning in your audience's minds, preferably a question that they're fearful of. For example, in Mack's case, that is, what happens if AI takes over? Now, using this formula to come up with amazing ideas is a lot harder said than done. This isn't the kind of thing you'll be able to sit down and 10 minutes later you'll have an awesome idea. This is going to take hours of research and brainstorming. But sometimes spending 1, 2, 3, even 10 hours researching one video idea that is going to be an absolute killer is smarter than trying to create 5 or 10 videos in that same space of time where the ideas just aren't really that good. Because as Mr. Beast has pointed out,
it's much easier to get 5 million views on one video
than 50,000 views on 100 videos.
But just because you have a good idea doesn't mean it's going to work. You have to actually package it and position it correctly so people will actually click. Because if they don't click, the algorithm won't promote your video to more people, and so you won't go viral. Pretty much the first thing you'll always look at is the thumbnail of the video. And the thumbnail of this video is excellent. From a design perspective, everything is easy to see. It's clear. All the colors complement and contrast with one another. So it's not hard to make out what's actually happening in the thumbnail. It's also quite bright, which is usually a plus. It also takes inspiration from a lot of proven thumbnails out there. You'll see in two ways. Firstly, you'll see a lot of these challenge type videos with people in sort of an enclosed prison dungeon-esque looking setting do quite well. And surprise, surprise, that's the theme this video has gone after. And I'm willing to bet that that was strategic, not just purely a design accident based on the graphic designer's preference that morning. The second thing to note is the whole outstretched hand thing. Again, this is body language that has been proven to work across multiple similar thumbnails for other videos that have done quite well. And lastly, the thumbnail really encapsulates the deeper meaning and ethos behind the video idea itself. There's an angry looking AI very clearly controlling our character, Mack. And in case it isn't obvious enough, a really subtle detail I love about this thumbnail is how the AI is actually holding his tie, like holding him back. The fact that the AI is actually holding his tie and holding him back kind of confirms to the viewers that, hey, the AI is controlling him, not trying to harm him, which again aligns with the video idea. And even though this is a specific thumbnail for Mack's video, all these principles can be applied to any video you might create to help you get more views. So firstly, make sure everything is easy to see. Make sure it's simple. Make sure the lighting is right so that people's eyes are able to easily rest on the thing you're trying to make them see. Also, do your research, figure out what's working and what's not working, and then take elements of those things and apply them to your own thumbnails. Those other videos out there that have done really well already, treat them as case studies of what's working. And then lastly, always try and remember the deeper meaning or psychology behind your thumbnail. Look at the image and try to figure out what kind of story or emotion is your thumbnail going to sort of trigger in your viewers' minds, and is there any confusion that you might need to avoid through subtle details in your thumbnail. For example, in this case, the AI holding Mack back to convey that the AI is controlling him, not trying to chase after and harm him or whatever. The title for this video is also excellent. It's simple and readable, and often you'll find that once you've got a really good video idea and thumbnail, usually the title is pretty easy because it just simply and clearly summarizes that video idea and thumbnail. Some additional points I want to point out about this title specifically though that you might be able to apply to your own videos is, firstly, notice how it's quite short. So often on mobile, videos will have their titles cut off at a certain point, but even if the title of this video is cut off, the first couple of words give enough context that you would then see the thumbnail and be like, oh, I pretty much know what this video is about. So in other words, especially if you're writing longer titles, write them with the frame of mind that the title is going to be cut off on mobile. Now, there's no hard character limit that we know of. It seems like YouTube has an algorithm that sort of decides when it's going to truncate a video title, but a safe guess is it can be round about 25 characters. Also, same with the thumbnail, write your title in a way that it can't be misinterpreted. A really subtle detail that I really liked about this video was a lot of other AI videos out there will just have a capital A and capital I, but sometimes that capital I might be mistaken for an L. And so in Mack's case here, he's used a lowercase I, and while he kind of breaks the rules of grammar here, he makes it pretty much impossible to misinterpret what he's saying. Now, if we were to dive into the actual video structure itself, it is excellent. My guess is that this video is actually pretty heavily pre-planned. You'll notice throughout the video, there are times when he gets a certain challenge given to him by the AI, and immediately he has people all ready to help him achieve this challenge. If you're going to put that much time and effort into a video like this, sometimes it can be worthwhile pre-planning this stuff, because the world can be so erratic sometimes that if you just let your video just play out and you hope that a good structure or story emerges from it, oftentimes it won't. Essentially, this video actually has a subtle payoff at the end that causes you to want to watch it all the way to the end. The fact that he's taking part in this challenge for a set amount of time makes you feel like you have to watch the challenge all the way to the end to have, properly watched it. Unlike other videos where they might not have a specific payoff or deadline, and so there's no tension built where the viewer feels like they need to reach the end, because there is no end other than the video itself actually physically intrinsically ending, which is what all YouTube videos do, and so that is not compelling enough. But while a 100-hour challenge in and of itself is an interesting external journey most viewers will be interested in following, Mack's also going through an internal journey throughout the course of this video, because the whole purpose of this video is to figure out whether or not he would be able to live a happier life under the instruction of ChatGPT. And this isn't some coincidental accident. This is a proper story structure made popular by Hollywood directors and consultants Michael Haig and Chris Vogler, and they call it the two hero journeys. Essentially, you want the character of your story, which in this case is Mack going through this video, to have two journeys. You want them to have an external journey, which in this case is Mack surviving 100 hours being controlled by AI, but then also you want the character to be going through a second journey, which is the internal emotional journey. Mack trying to improve and live a happier life. And it's really challenging to do, but if you can have two journeys, an external and an internal throughout your videos, your attention tends to be a lot higher. Now, if we zero in a bit more on this specific content in the video, what you'll find is that he covers an insane amount of emotionally charged, interesting moments. And that might sound like I'm just spouting nerdy fangirl jargon here, but let's flesh out those two concepts real quick. So for example, an emotionally charged moment that isn't interesting might be someone talking about, say, what they're struggling in their life. They just sit down, turn on a camera and talk about their struggles. And sometimes those videos are so raw and authentic and relatable that they do well, but not always, because just having someone sit down and talk to a camera like this video here isn't that unique or interesting. You could also have the opposite of this. An example of that might be watching someone achieve a weird or strange feat or world record. It's cool, it's interesting, but you don't have enough investment in the person achieving the record or doing the weird thing to really care that much on an emotional level. And while both of these things can do well individually, it's when you combine them that the magic really occurs. For example, in this particular video, Mack has a huge amount of inherently interesting moments. For example, he starts out by fixing his morning routine, from going to bed at 4 AM and eating Doritos, to waking up at 6:30 every morning, drinking a glass of water, eating a healthy breakfast, and then working out. He also goes cliff diving, he goes bungee jumping, he goes on a date but only says what the AI tells him to say. He gives $5,000 to a random McDonald's employee. Each of these things is intrinsically interesting, and each one of these could probably be its own video. Increasingly, videos nowadays, you need to have multiple interesting or awesome moments throughout them. You kind of need to over deliver to people and deliver them like 6 different videos in one, because the competition is getting pretty damn tough nowadays. But beyond these just inherently interesting moments, he also charges them emotionally by getting you involved in his character and his story. He comes out and talks about how he often suffers from loneliness. He loathes himself for eating Doritos and falling asleep at 4 AM. He shares how he's ignored by all the girls he's trying to contact when he's organizing this date. But a lot of information here. What are some takeaways from this that you can apply to your own content so you can start getting more views? Essentially, identify the strong emotions your audience tend to feel. Frustration, rejection, loneliness, fear. And then the next step is to sort of build a relationship and rapport with your audience by sharing how you struggle with these things and have experienced these emotions too. People like people who are like themselves. Rapport is built through a feeling of commonality. And then the final step is to take all of that and then try and intertwine it with highly interesting, sometimes maybe even extreme moments. And a key thing to note here is that I said moments, not moment. So when you can, having multiple interesting moments throughout your video will give you an edge. And then from there, it's just about the nitty-gritties of editing and scripting that content in a way that will make people want to watch. So in Mack's case, he has an excellent hook. The beginning of his video connects to and gives the vibe of his thumbnail perfectly. It's funny. And then he also teases some reasons why you'd want to hang around throughout the entire video by sharing some of the most interesting moments from the video without completely spoiling them or having it sort of be a pre-show reel, which a lot of people do. They just put all of the best moments from their video right at the very beginning and then get into the video. But what you'll actually see in your analytics a lot of the times, especially if your audience catch on that you're doing this, is they'll actually just skip that and try and get into the content. It's kind of like clicking on a Netflix movie and then the movie trailer plays before the movie actually starts. You'd probably just skip it, right? And then the editing itself is really technically good. I'm going to get my editor to show this on screen because I'm lazy, but like just look at how many visual changes and cuts happen within just the first 30 seconds of this video. Just by eyeballing it, it's a hell of a lot. If you're doing this many cuts in your first 30 seconds, but all of the cuts feel the same, they're all using the exact same piece of footage, again, kind of like this video, then you're probably not going to do as well as if you had done something like what Mack did. And then finally, the video comes to an end by you getting the payoff that you subconsciously stuck around to get, which is seeing what happened at the end of the challenge and how it impacted Mack, not just externally, but also internally. So I hope this breakdown was helpful for you. You might need to watch it a few times because this is very, very in-depth. But if you are feeling extremely overwhelmed right now, which is completely understandable, Mack has worked with Airac. He's a highly experienced YouTuber with a big team behind him. But if you're really small, just getting started, and you're still struggling to get some initial views, maybe consider the video on screen. It's going to be catered specifically to you and your situation, and it might be a little bit less overwhelming than this video you just watched. So check it out.